Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Wednesday, September 28th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
You look amazing, Mimi Brown. I am Romeo.
Romeo, you look amazing too. I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, the fight to reduce the amount of access that law enforcement agencies have to buy cell phone tracking tools to follow people. Well, it's currently being led by a handful of Democratic senators, and we have that story. Meanwhile, Hurricane Ian is causing delays within the January 6th committee that's investigating the insurrection, pushing back the final meeting that intends to uncover Donald Trump's plot to overturn the election. Then, a white man in Mississippi is facing federal hate crime charges after his black neighbors accuse him of burning a cross in their front yard. He has a slew of charges that could land him behind bars, and we're going to have that story as well.
Plus, 2 people have been arrested in the murder of P&B Rock. A third suspect remains at large. We'll tell you why police are calling him armed and dangerous. And Megan Thee Stallion creates a new website for women seeking resources for mental health. We have all that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. We start today with news on how Congress is working to reform police cell phone tracking tools. Civil rights leaders and Democratic senators are pushing a bill that would limit police and other law enforcement agencies the ability to buy cell phone tracking tools to follow people. Police agencies have been using a tool known as fog reveal, a technology that can search hundreds of billions of records gathered from more than 250 cell phones. The technology has been used to solve murders and even track down a person involved in the January 6th insurrection. It can all be done without a search warrant. The tool is rarely mentioned in court records. Therefore, defense attorneys say it makes it harder for them to properly defend their clients. You know, this fog reveal is, I guess it's putting a name to the face, because we know a lot of times, so when you're using these apps, it'll say, can we continue using your location? Can we continue tracking you? So basically what's happening is fog reveal was made by 2 former Department of Homeland Security officials during the George W. Bush presidency days. The company, it uses apps like Starbucks, Waze, and other popular apps that track your location. And then what they do is they take that data and then they sell it to police, other law enforcement agencies, and it tells them your interests, what you like, where you've been, what you're up to, just, you know, every almost thing about you that you can think of. And then they use the police departments, the law enforcement agencies, they purchase that information from companies like Fog Reveal, and then they come and arrest you or find you or question you or whatever the reason is that they're looking for you. And so I think a bill to get that not to happen, to pass that bill, would be amazing for the American people. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some people, we can't find them. We need to get their information. We need to figure some things out. But on the larger scope, knowing that you're being followed and that information is being sold to police departments everywhere, that's a little scary.
It's very, very scary, Mimi. And, you know, it reminded me of the bill that would help women with data tracking of our periods and things of that nature. You know, like you said, on one scope, it's like, wow, our phones have been tracking us for way too long. Our phones know way too much about us. I hate when the app says, hey, would you like for us to use your location while you're using this app? You forget to close the app, and then your location is being tracked for days, among years, and for Lord knows how long. How many times have you said out loud on your phone, Walgreens, and then all of a sudden an app about Walgreens pops up on your Instagram? And that's when it's kind of scary when you're following the law. However, there are people, lots of people in the world, like all the people who took part in the January 6th insurrection, just as one instance, who their data needed to be tracked. Their data, they were going to be on the hideout, wherever, you know, yeah. I don't know, wherever on the loose, that you need that data to be able to find them. If you're in a domestic violence situation, that person needs to be found. You have a warrant out for their arrest, you need to find them. Certain situations, you do need this. So it's a catch-22.
Makes sense. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. But, you know, I feel like if you could have this kind of app that can do this, there's got to be a way we can get all these text messages that happened on January 6th on the insurrection. There's got to be a way we can get around all this seeking and hiding and get to the bottom of the truth. But look, there's always been conspiracy theories about when it comes to your cell phone. They hear us. They see where we are. It's pretty much true. But then again, when you use this in the wrong way, which some police departments are doing, this is when it's a problem because most of the time it's happening to people of color.
Right, absolutely. Which is a really big deal, right? So we'll see what happens. But I think, just depends on what the case is. And I do think if they were able to have to get a warrant, that may actually solve the problem. Because right now, they don't need a warrant to get this information from these companies. They can just clearly just go buy it and get it.
And shout out to the Democratic senators who want to, have stricter laws and help us out, ultimately, our privacy. All right, so the White House committee investigating the attack on the U.S. Capitol delayed its hearing that was scheduled for tomorrow. They cited Hurricane Ian as the reason to push it back. The committee planned to hold what was likely as its final investigative hearing this afternoon. The lawmakers have not announced a new date for the proceedings. There is not a specific agenda either for the hearing at this time. Congressman Adam Schiff said that over the weekend, it would tell the story about a key element of, quote, Donald Trump's plot to overturn the election.
The Department of Justice is threatening legal action against Jackson, Mississippi city officials. They say the city's water supply isn't safe to drink. The DOJ says if the city doesn't comply with their recommendation on fixing the city's ailing water system, they will file suit. Justice officials sent the letter to Mayor Lumumba. The letter accuses the city of failing to fix the city's water supply for years. The DOJ says the poor water supply violates the Safe Drinking Water Act. The city went through a crisis after infrastructure failures and river flooding overwhelmed the city's already poor water system in mid-August. We think about what's going on, which we'll talk about later on the show, what's happening with the hurricane in Florida, but we best believe once that passes through, FEMA's going to be there to show up, and they're going to have other ways of taking care of that. We talked about Brett Favre and how he's taking millions away, right? Money that could be used for this. So we think about Ukraine, how we send millions, billions overseas to help other countries, yet we cannot take care of our own in our own backyard because it's Mississippi, because if it's overpopulated by maybe people of color. So look, they have every right to say, if you don't fix this, it's going to be a problem for you.
Yeah, I love that the Justice Department is stepping in. We've seen this so much now with the Biden administration, with them stepping into a lot of these cities where they're investigating police departments, investigating environmental justices, and that's what we need. We need someone federally on that level who's going to look into some of these towns, these local cities, and make sure that they're doing right by their people. We know that Jackson, Mississippi is 80% black. And so, they feel like they can get away with stealing their money, not providing them clean water and things like that. So I'm really happy that the Justice Department is going to look in if they do not get their act together.
Romeo, great point about Brett Favre, because here we are in need of money to help out so many black Americans in Jackson, Mississippi, and here this man is stealing money. However, when we have a situation like this, no one wants to take the blame. Nobody wants to be the blame for this. The governor himself even is on record having blocked money and funds to fix repairs in the city because he feels like it's the city's fault. So the city is going to blame it on someone else. And then the government, everyone is trying to blame another person versus us saying, hey, this has affected so many Americans. Forget the fact that they are black Americans, that we are black Americans for a second. We are human beings that deserve to have clean water to, like you said, Mimi, yesterday, to take a shower and make our morning coffee and morning tea. For a second, think about these are human beings that don't have a bare necessity. That when you come into a city that you should have, this should be a top priority, and everybody should be riling in together to fix this issue and not pointing fingers.
I agree. And Todd Kim, Assistant Attorney General, said we're prepared to file an action, but would hope this matter could be resolved within a foreseeable agreement that is the best interest of both the city and the United States. Look, the city of Jackson, Mississippi is on watch right now.
Yeah, you know what this brings to mind is when we think about Jackson, Mississippi, we think about the other Flint, Michigan, and a lot of these, for a minute, Baltimore, all of these places, the common denominator is that these people are black, right? Here in California, there was the city of Porter Ranch, and they had a natural gas leak. They moved everyone who was in the surrounding area who may have been affected by that into different housing. They paid for it, and they gave those people a check. And they did that immediately. And all I'm saying is, why do we citizens, black citizens in these these predominantly black areas not get that same treatment, right? They should get that same treatment where they're moved out or these problems are immediately fixed. We've got to do story after story and beg and plead for clean water. This is America in 2022.
Had a family member that lived in Port Orange, put him in a hotel and everything.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Ian is now officially a Category 4 hurricane. Overnight, Ian made landfall as a powerful Category 3 storm on the western tip of Cuba. The entire country is without power today after the grid collapsed. 125-mile-per-hour winds and heavy rainfall caused significant damage to the west, center, and eastern parts of the island. And in Orlando, Disney World is shutting down because of the hurricane. The theme park will be closed today and Thursday. The Orlando Sanford International Airport is already closed. No word on when the airport will reopen. And in Tampa, residents have already started to prepare. Forecasters believe Hurricane Ian will hit the state's west coast or panhandle. Officials expect the dangerous system to stall over Florida, causing extensive flooding. Governor Ron DeSantis is urging people to take these warnings very seriously.
And donations that were supposed to go to nonprofit groups from the proceeds of Herschel Walker's company are under scrutiny. The New York Times says that the Georgia State candidate, his company, Renaissance Man Food Services, claimed to have donated a portion of its proceeds to 4 nonprofit groups. But 2 of those organizations claimed that they were never receiving any donations. Walker has pledged to give 15% of his profits to charities like the Boy Scouts of America. But the Times says that there is little evidence any money has been given to those groups. Neither Walker or campaign spokespeople have answered questions about the company's donations. And so just in one instance here, his company mentioned that they made donations between the year of 2007 and 2017. Like we said, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society said that they received $860 from Walker in 2005 and then $1,000 in 2006. The organization received $25 in 2009. And so when you think about the big money that a person of his stature is bringing in, going up against Reverend Senator Raphael Warnock in Georgia, I'm sure $860 is laughable. We can come together with $860 and give. Also, $25 is an insult, to be honest. And so him saying that he's been giving money all over, he did say he wasn't that smart, but this is like, okay, now, come on. Now it's all really starting to make sense.
He's not that smart. He's not that rich. Look, for Malachi's cookies at school, I can come up with $800. Like, what are we doing?
We gave Malachi $1,000. I'm just saying.
We did do that.
We sure did.
Yeah. So listen, if y'all can raise that for, what grade was Malachi at the time?
He was in 3rd grade.
For a 3rd grader, come on, someone running for U.S. Senate can do a little bit better.
Yes.
Right?
And he had a bag of Skittles for it. That was it. I was like, what? The payoff?
We'll put in real work for that right there.
All right, so some GOP senators are not happy with the Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' decision to send migrants to Martha's Vineyard. The acknowledged DeSantis' political stunt plays well on Fox News, but it looks bad to independent and moderate Democratic voters they hope to sway for the midterm elections. Republican leaders say DeSantis will probably benefit from the stunt if he plans to run for the GOP presidential nomination in 2024. But one Senate Republican says it goes to show how far the GOP has moved from the George W. Bush brand of compassionate conservatism.
And Wilmington, North Carolina City Council is ordering the removal of a Black Lives Matter mural from a local park. The mural was approved after the murder of George Floyd in 2020, but during a council meeting last week, members voted to retire the sign. The 2 people who voted against the removal are the only 2 black people on the council. The members who voted to remove the sign say 2 years is long enough for a public art installation. African Americans make up only 17% of Wilmington's population.
Fort Worth, Texas is settling a federal civil rights lawsuit. Soulmates filed by a black woman after she and her daughter were beaten by a police officer after a dispute took place with a neighbor. Jacqueline Craig and one of their daughters was wrestled to the ground by Officer William Martin back in 2016. Martin pointed a stun gun at her daughter while another of Craig's children shot this video that you're looking at here. The city agreed to pay Craig $150,000. The cop was suspended for 10 days. Now, Craig called police for help after she says her neighbor grabbed and choked her son.
In Mississippi, a white man is being charged with a federal hate crime for burning a cross in his front yard. Prosecutors say Alex Cox burned a cross to intimidate his black neighbors. Cox is being charged with 1 count of criminal interference with the right to fair housing, as well as 1 count of using fire to commit a federal felony. The law dates back to 1968 Civil Rights Act. The incident reportedly happened back in December of 2020. Justice Department attorneys say Cox called the family racial slurs as well.
And 75 years ago, California lawmakers amended the state constitution to make it harder to build public housing. Now voters have a chance to repeal that article of the Constitution in California in 2024. The ballot measure will ask voters to get rid of the measure which the real estate industry sponsored in 1950. It's one of the reasons why California has a lack of affordable housing right now. And that lack of affordable housing has a lot to do with the current housing crisis we have here in the state.